With one more preseason game left in the book, who can really push to try to make the Jets a 53-man roster? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be talking about the 4 position battles that I am going to keep my eyes peeled on the last preseason game against the Giants tomorrow. We all know that we're going to be super excited to watch the ones. Mekhi Becton taking reps at right tackle. The offensive line almost fully back and healthy and playing. Aaron Rodgers under the bright lights. The defense back in full action. But we're only going to get that for maybe 2 drives. The reality is that tomorrow is the last day for players to earn their spot on the 53-man roster. So who are some of the position battles that I am going to be watching intently? We'll get into that in a second, but a quick reminder, guys, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. We are so close to 3,000 subscribers, and I know that it would be a little bit of a massive ask to get there by week 1, but that would be a really, really cool thing. If you're liking the video, don't forget to hit the like button, but let's hop in to today. The main position battle that I have been keeping an eye on all summer long, and one that I am really hoping falls the way that I wanted to hope, is the safety battle between Trey Dean and Ashtyn Davis. We've seen Ashtyn Davis on this team for a long, long time, and honestly have been incredibly underwhelmed by his performance and just his ability. And when Trey Dean was picked up as an undrafted free agent, someone that I wanted us to draft in the 5th or the 6th round, I became extremely excited at the possibility of adding such a tall, lanky, athletic safety to the room, someone who's kind of built to erase tight ends like Trey Dean is. But we know how much this team values special teams play, and Ashtyn Davis does play special teams at a relatively high level. And after last week's game, Ashtyn Davis played phenomenally. But Trey Dean does lead this team in tackles in the preseason, and this battle is going to be a good one because I don't think that the New York Jets are going to carry 5 safeties, and I think that Tony Adams, Jordan Whitehead, and Adrian Amos are pretty much roster locks when it comes to the safety battle, which means that there's only 1 spot left, and it's only going to be able to go to one of those 2 guys. I'm hoping it goes to Dean, but we're definitely going to have to see how these guys perform, see how these guys play, and what happens in the long run for the New York Jets safety room. The next position battle that I think everybody is going to be paying extreme attention to is obviously going to be the wide receiver 5 position battle, and maybe even 6 if we decide to carry a 6th wide receiver. Now, while I don't think that the New York Jets are going to carry a 6th wide receiver, and I don't necessarily think that the Jets might be in on trade targets before the season starts to help replace what Corey Davis is, I think that the real battle comes into which one of Malik Taylor, Jason Brownlee, or Xavier Gipson, and now being thrown into the mix because of his size, Irvin Charles, which one of those guys is truly going to be able to set themselves apart and go and get the job as wide receiver 5. If I had to take my guess, if I had to make my assumption on who it is, I would give that job to Jason Brownlee right now. He has been the best of the undrafted free agent or really practice squad type of wide receivers that are out there and available on the team practicing. And I think that when we look at skill sets, he matches Corey Davis's skill set a little bit closer than maybe a guy like Xavier Gipson, who would really be brought in for his special teams ability. And I think that people are forgetting that I think that the Jets have been saving McCole Hardman and Israel Abanikanda for the special teams stuff and not having them taking those extra reps and just seeing what they have in a guy like Xavier Gipson and giving him an opportunity to win a job, if not with the New York Jets, with another team as a returner, because I think he does that exceptionally well. We're really going to have to pay attention to the target share and who's going to get the most looks when it comes to the wide receiver room. The next position battle is an interesting one, which is one that I don't think a lot of people expected going into the year to be as close as it was. But for me, it really has been. And that is the cornerback 4/5, depending on how you consider Justin Hardy a roster lock or not. I don't think that he should be, but I think that this team is going to keep him, unfortunately. So the battle comes down to, when we're looking at cornerback 5, it's a battle between Bryce Hall, Jimmy Moreland, and Craig James, all who have had relatively successful careers in the NFL. And then with Moreland and James, they've had really, really good camps with the New York Jets. And remember, we're talking about the backup to the backup here, right? If we ever see any of these guys on the field, something has gone incredibly wrong. But the way that I look at it is I think that Bryce Hall is not that much better than a guy like Jimmy Moreland or Craig James, and he might have some type of trade value out there when it comes to moving on from him, and we can save a ton of money from getting out from under him, which would put us in a prime position to, if a big-name free agent became available, like a Mike Evans or a Devontae Adams or whoever, we can be in on that conversation seriously. And so for me, while I hope that we keep Moreland or James, it'd be difficult to say that we'd move on from a guy like Hall, who 2 years ago was a starting corner for the New York Jets, albeit in a different scheme. Now, moving on to the last position battle, one that I find super, super fun, is not necessarily like two guys vying for one job, but it's two different position groups vying for a roster spot. And those two position groups, I think, are tight end 4 and linebacker 5. Can Kenny Yeboah or Zach Kuntz step up their game so much to justify being carried over a guy like Chaz Surratt on the roster? Or is the love for a guy like Chaz Surratt worth the risk of not carrying an extra tight end? I don't think that you can carry 5 linebackers and 4 tight ends, especially since we know that the New York Jets are going to keep a fullback on this team. So if all of that is true, only one of these guys are going to be able to make the roster. Is it going to be the newly drafted Zach Kuntz and this special team stud that is Kenny Yeboah earning their final roster spot? Is it a guy like Chaz Surratt who's finally getting some sort of health and plays at an exceptionally high-paced and fast in the linebacker room, giving us more depth in that room? Who knows? It's one that I have been following so closely. If I had to make the decision, I think I would keep the linebacker. The defense is our strength, and having depth is always good. But there is an argument to be made that guys like Jordan Whitehead, Adrian Amos, Trey Dean, even Ashton Davis can play as the third linebacker. So the Jets don't necessarily need to keep a fifth linebacker, which is a super intriguing prospect. We're going to have to see if the linebacker, Chaz Surratt, or even Virgil or whoever else in that room, if they can separate themselves far enough away from the pack and the tight end room to keep a job. I'm super interested to see all of these position battles. Guys, stay tuned, because after the game, we're going to talk about the 5 players that we want to keep on the practice squad that we don't think are going to make it onto the 53-man roster with a special guest. So make sure to hit the subscribe button to be around for that. And last but not least, go Jets.